Hey Heidi, how's Raleigh?
Raleigh is rallying. How's Houston?
We're always showing our best colors out here in Houston.
It is actually like rainy and cold today, which is not normal and it makes me sad, but we don't get many of those.
Yeah, it's actually very cold here today. You get to see my fireplace in the back. We did the rainy stuff the last couple of days. So
Got
anyway,
that out of your system. Cool.
yeah, had to. Okay, so welcome to episode 2
We
because
made it.
yeah, between the two of us, we
Yep.
promised each other we would do this again. And last time we talked about all kinds of things, got ourselves introduced, and this time I've been thinking on what we had chatted about last time, and I just have a big question like, how are you emotionally this season? Can you feel your hands? Can you feel your feet? Can you feel your heart?
As you were saying that, I was like, can I? Like full body check. Like, yeah, yeah. It's a lot. I mean, holidays I think are a lot for everybody.
They are. And I think that leads me to say and kind of roll into what happens in real estate as a producing agent and then in life as like a mom, a member of a family, a member of a community when it comes to the overall desensitization of everything and how when we first started in the business and I mean I know for me personally I recall very clearly have we decided we're okay saying bad words on this?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, it's
Actually,
not
I marked it as explicit because I had to mark something.
okay, it's not a bad one, but I remember one of my very first deals I did with a lady that we'll call Bitchy Bonnie. And
Hold on, time out. Is she saved in your phone? Is that?
yes.
Okay, because Molly saves these, she makes up these nicknames and then saves them accordingly. I just like never save their number. And Molly has like these witty sayings. Okay, continue.
So also in the comments, leave if you are a recorder, if you write down wacky names for people in your phone, please send them to us in the comments. Like we want to
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. They probably have some good ones. Yeah.
please share them with me because my phone is riddled with them.
Yeah.
I also have a blacklist in mine too. Like I'll and we can go over that another time. But anyway, so Bitchy Bonnie, this was when I was first in the business, and everything I was focused on so carefully for my clients because they're my clients and it's important. They had, a baby on the way and all of this. I really wanted the details to work. And Bitchy Bonnie like never paid attention. She was so nothing was a big deal to her. And looking back now, a decade later, I'm like, oh, all she was like experienced in real estate.
But you were like taking it all personally. Is that what was happening?
Me personally, every little thing I'm like, well, that's just the end of it. This is how it ends.
Yeah.
And Bitchy Bonnie would just solve the problem and roll on and never allow herself to get emotionally involved. Or if she did, it was completely
Mm.
compartmentalized for a moment and then she would move on. And so I think back to those days because now recently have encountered a few things that, when these transactions move along and a few months have passed, we'll come back here and talk about them too. But, that make me go, good thing I've gotten good at compartmentalizing real estate. And it's such a skill that you don't know you need when you first started in the business. So I don't know. Tell me your thoughts on tell me a story, or if you have questions, like I know of one for you. I just wanted to hear you say it out loud.
Okay, I don't know which one you're talking about, which is really unfortunate because that means that I have a caboodle. But
Well,
I also think that it is like as a consumer, like you should know how somebody handles stress because I think that also tells you how good that person's going to be as your realtor, right? Because you need somebody that's like calm, focused, like what are your goals? Like that's what they need to do, not all tied up in the drama.
yeah.
And we have been desensitized because obviously we've been through it. And we share these stories all the time. We are like, between the two of us, let
Yeah.
me tell you what
Yeah.
happened today. So yeah, we've done that. But what story are you thinking of specifically?
When they I just recall when one of your transactions a spray paint can was involved.
Oh,
And if we have to wait a little longer to talk about that one, we can.
no, the real estate commission has closed that file.
That was the perfect reply. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Okay, let me paint this picture. So I was trying to be mom of the year and I thought the kid's first week, what was that?
She already is, but
Oh,
keep
that was
going.
very kind, very kind. I don't feel like it often, so I need that. Thank you. And it was the kids' first week off of school, and I had all these plans. I mean, you'll remember, Molly, like I was like, we're going to go to this zoo today, and then we're going to, vacation Bible school. And like I had it all like planned. Like it was all so beautiful in my mind. Well, in the background, I was the listing agent and we had a buyer. And there were many things that happened through the process that I probably shouldn't go into. But basically, she created this narrative in her mind about us forcing her to buy this house. And in the marketing, we said that there was a shed that could be turned into a home office. Now, in the state of North Carolina, I don't know who's listening out there, but in the state of North Carolina, a shed is a shed. Like it does not need to be, it's not heated and cooled. It's not considered square footage. It is a storage unit. So, yes, it could be
You can
turned into a
creatively
home
use it
office.
however you want, right? It's your
Yeah. And
kid.
like this woman walked through the house prior to making the offer. Her agent had an associate walk through the house. Like none of this was a shock that it turned out to actually be a shed. When she found this out, she was enraged. Like, I remember Molly getting on Marco Polo and being like, guess what happened today? And she created this whole narrative in her mind about how awful of a human I am.
Mhm.
She left a Google review about this. She filed a complaint with the real estate commission. And I'm not here to like one up anybody, but this is not my first complaint. And I'd like to say of the complaints I've had, none of them I've been guilty of.
Legitimate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway, she filed a real estate complaint. And what they normally do, because there's attorneys involved, is they normally say something at the end of like, we didn't find any, mishandling of ethics. However, if something like this comes up in the future, we'll let you know. Well, prior to closing, this woman had spray painted the Prince logo, like the Prince, like,
Artist
yeah,
formerly known as.
yeah, like the logo in the shed that she could not use as a home office, trespassing on my neighbor's, or sorry, my client's property. And so it's just like I remember telling people this and they're like, are you sure? Like you can tell that they're like, okay, Heidi's exaggerating, but like this stuff happens. Anyway, we got it to close. The real estate commission, it was one of my highlights of the year. Actually, Molly, I sent you a screenshot once it came in. They didn't even say like we're going to keep this file open just in case something like this comes through. They were like, thank you, the file has been closed,
Yeah.
because there were so many layers to this where this woman was like, she didn't even use her name. Like she
Yeah.
made up a name for this complaint. Anyway,
And all along, you're having to be a mom. You're
yeah,
having to be a team lead, a wife, all the hats you wear. How
yes,
did
but
you
also,
manage that?
well, but I'm also being the center voice of my clients,
Yeah.
because this lady is in their backyard
Yeah.
with spray paint cans.
Yeah.
Like, does that feel like a violation of privacy? I think so. So I'm trying to keep them, I'm trying to take their emotions, listen, but also problem solve,
Yeah.
right? And all of this is just like going and going and going. And I I, I am so grateful for all of the drama that's happened prior, because it has paved the way. I really think that if this was one of my first transactions, I would have completely burned out and been like, no, never mind, never mind. But instead, I
Oh,
told like five people
oh,
about it and moved on. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and that's part of what we do. Like it's chaos with a smile, it's balancing it all and being that person that fortunately has been desensitized by all these dramatic situations, because people love real estate drama, right? Bravo,
has made
HGTV,
it.
like
Yeah.
there's millions, billions of dollars
Right.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, that are made off of real estate drama.
Some of it extra created, but real estate drama is real. I think when it comes to my transactions and like my systematic desensitization, I think, really over the years. One, it's funny, in my former career, I did some work with like self care and psychological services and things like this. And one of the things that we teach is if there's a big problem, is it a today problem or is it a next week problem?
Mm.
And you start asking yourself that, is this a today problem or is this another day problem? And that helps with compartmentalizing and deciding, the hierarchy of which to worry over things. But I think with real estate, one of the things that has helped me the most as an agent on the buy and the list side is that initial interview that we do with our clients when we sit down and we're like, all right, like, good to meet you. How, what's your timeline? What are your wants and needs and what are your priorities? And if you truly like listen carefully and write them out or
There
keep
you
track
go.
of them somehow, when the proverbial poo hits the fan, you go back to your list
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, founded on this list, what is the next most wisest step, and then go from there. And then also when you're, because I'll tell you, the people who aren't great at this, and they don't do it every day, so they shouldn't be and they can't be necessarily, are our clients. And so when they're kind of off the rails, and it happens, real estate's very messy, we just say, okay, restating your priority, with that in mind, here's my opinion, here are my thoughts. What do you want to do given what your priority was outlined in the beginning? And sort of, here's my experience as a, real estate advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go next? I think that helps the people who aren't like us now, where we have things like compartmentalized and systems to help us manage the chaos that is real estate. I think that helps others in the transaction. Just going back to that priority list.
Well, I love that because that is something that as drama or steps get into a real estate transaction, people's feelings get hurt because, they didn't negotiate the way that they wanted with the plumbing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they take it so personally. But coming back to when we first spoke, like, how do you word that?
I just say, I was thinking about things and I really want to go back to that first conversation that we had. And you guys sat down and said to me, look, Molly, the most important thing is that we're in that house before the kids go back to school in the spring. That is what we need to get it for this price, and we need to be in that home before the school start date. And so then I say, given those two factors that were the most important, here is the counter, or here's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to stratify in terms of importance now, with the reminder of, we have these two goals of getting in the house for 530,000 and making sure we're in it before January 7th or something. That's how I say it.
I love that. See, I was in a listing appointment yesterday, and the gal that I was interviewing to list their house, she was like, I was on ChatGPT yesterday and we want to sell our house in January. And they said that if I don't have my pictures scheduled, I'm behind the ball. And so it's interesting because people are getting this information
Mhm.
from now ChatGPT. Look, I love that thing.
He's
I
like the
love it.
third most loved man in my life behind my
I
husband
know.
and my dog.
Yeah, as he should be. So it like I get what she's saying and I understand that, but like people are just getting their information from everywhere,
Mhm.
right? Like TikTok or their dog or like
Their neighbor's cousin
ChatGPT.
who just got her license.
Yeah, like there's such an influx of information. It's easy to get super emotional and overwhelmed. For us on our team, what I always recommend us do is we do a three-step approach. And what I mean by that is when somebody comes to me with an issue, and it could be, let me make one up. The house didn't appraise to value. Okay.
Good one.
Always give three options. Okay. So one, we accept that we are paying more than what the house is worth because you want to be in this house. Now, Molly, tying in what you said, I could say, now, when we first met, you told me that the most important thing was to get in by Christmas.
Yeah.
So if that's still how we are, then option one makes sense. However, for this, that was just an example. Normally, I lead with option one and I say, I don't think this is the best bet for you. Let me tell you why, and I'll tell you why with option two and three, right? So, option two, we can ask the seller, I'm pretending I represent the buyer. We can ask the seller to come down to the appraised value, because at that point, that buyer's making every red cent out of that house. They know they're not leaving anything on the table. That's option B. Option C. Now, guys, I do a lot of real estate. Most people are good and most people are fair. I think option C is going to be the best one for you, but I want you guys after this phone call to get off of the phone and talk to each other to decide what you want, and then call me back. But for me, option C is, let's ask them to go down to the appraised value, but be ready with a counteroffer of what you think is fair. That way, the buyer they're winning because they're getting every red cent off of that house. But most of the time, at least in North Carolina, we have due diligence money. So if somebody walks away, they lose that money, right?
And
So I need to make
it's a
sure that
high
rolls out. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm giving them the option, 3 different options, which is empowering to them.
Yeah.
I'm giving them the privacy to talk about it, but I'm also inserting my opinion. Like, professionally, this is why you hired me. Like, I don't think option A is the way to go. Option B is great, but let's be prepared with option C. And that's just like off the top of my mind. But that way, it makes the most crazy I see people is when they feel out of control.
Yeah, or cornered.
Yes. And this helps them feel more in control, I feel.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem now? How long have you been in the real estate business?
10 years.
10. I'm 10. 2 hands. So do you have a problem now being desensitized? Like, when I say problem, I mean, would you see it as a positive, a negative, or do you still have, like, does it still come into your life a whole lot?
Okay, so to answer your question, I don't have a problem necessarily. There will be certain circumstances for a family, that I can think of, like one recently that I knew there was very, you and I lovingly I'll refer to them as you, in your terms, of which I love, which is a Kohl's cash buyer, right? When they pretty much just have the very, very most minimum amount of funds to get into a home. We can get them there, with some elbow grease and some determination, grit. But I don't know why, but those cases I have a harder time compartmentalizing for a couple of reasons. One, I think generally those are a younger buyer demographic, for me at least. And so they have this, as we talked earlier, like this TV version of real estate in their minds. And so they're like, they have this house that they've imagined, and then they have Kohl's cash, and then it's bridging the gap between like what they want and what reality really is, and then like helping them whittle down to what their real wants are and their real needs are. And then when we're right on the cusp of that and finding it, and they're not seeing the value that I see because I do this every day, and they're going to walk away, then I'm like, oh, and that stress, like it'll wake me up at 3 a.m. I'll wake up and be like, that is the house for them. How can I make sure that they know it? Like, this house may not be the prettiest when it comes to the landscaping, but it's got a new HVAC and the plumbing was recently updated. And like, they can live in this home for 3 years and not have anything that's going to jump at them financially. And they can always work on the front yard. That stuff I have a really hard time compartmentalizing. But now when I run into like an agent on the other side who's really difficult, or a poor communicator, or maybe just has to feel like they win all the time, I have no trouble with that anymore. And I think I've gotten pretty good at making the other side think they won when it's really like.
Okay, well, walk me through that. Like, give me an example there.
So, for example, I just presented, there was a side that they wanted a seller lease back, and my clients wanted like $20,000 additional dollars off of the price. And so, my clients were the buyers, and they were definitely willing to do a seller lease back. And they said, yeah, go ahead and let them have that lease back. That'll be fine. But we're going to need that 20,000. And I said, well, if you don't mind, let me work through this. And so I set up the lease back so that it was really exactly what that client wanted, the seller wanted, based on what their agent had told me. And then I put my 20,000 in there that we needed back. But in the seller leaseback, I wrote in there that my buyer needed to have access within a 24-hour notice to start any and all renovations that they need to complete
Mm,
on this home to get moved in. So in the end, when I presented it over, they felt like they had won because they had the lease back. But when she really sat down and looked at it, it gave them the talking point of, well, yeah, we get it, but we don't want people coming to replace an HVAC while we're there. And we don't want people coming to tear up carpets while we're here and all of that. So they actually messaged back and they gave us a 20,000 and they declined the seller's lease back.
which they didn't want anyway, right?
Well, my clients didn't want them to have it. No,
Yeah.
because it delays them quite a bit with the work they need to do.
Yeah.
But so it was a win, but also the other side, she was like, the agent contacted me back and she's like, thank you so much for being willing to do this lease back. But after we really thought about it, just that won't work for us. And I was like, okay, win then. That's a win.
Well, we tried.
We
Yeah.
tried. We
Yeah.
gave you what you asked for. We
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
But that would have kept me up in year one or two. That would have kept me up at night, worrying and panicking and stressing. But I knew we had put our best foot forward. I think that's the other thing too now is like when you lay out your priorities and you communicate well with your clients, you know you've put your best foot forward. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really important perspective because how many deals have you had that like fell through or they are rocky? And then once you get on the other side, it was like, this was all meant to be.
Yeah.
Like,
When you find the house that they're meant to be in.
yes. And it's like the deals that we didn't get because there are multiple offers and then the right one comes around. And I feel like such a jerk saying this, but I'm like, I promise you, when we get to closing on the right one, you're going to look at me in the eyes and be like, Heidi, I'm so glad that other one didn't work out. And
Yeah.
it happens every time.
And
And
have you noticed that when it's meant to work out, it goes so much smoother
oh, yes,
every part of the transaction.
absolutely. Absolutely. But also, I think like the whole desensitization.
You got it.
Did I do that? Did I do that?
Got it, girl.
Thanks. I feel like it protects us mentally so that we can be the best versions of ourselves, meaning we're thinking clear. We're keeping the rules in mind that we need to keep in mind. We're keeping the motivation of the clients in mind. We are able to look through all the chaos because we exercise this.
Yeah. I agree with you. Do you have like some boundaries that you've set for yourself, like to keep the clarity? Like I don't answer phone calls after 10 o'clock at night, or I try not to, I don't know. I don't really have any necessarily hard and fast, but do you have any boundaries that are like you try to most of the time manage to keep yourself on your A game?
That's a really great question. I don't have many clients that really want to talk late at night. If I do, SHIT has hit the fan. But I would also much rather handle it then than sleep on it, like air quotes, and like have them sleep on it. Because what happens is the more time that you allow, the more like their imagination takes
Sure.
over, right?
Yeah.
So I'd rather squash it then, but I don't think so. I don't.
Have anything you do preemptively to keep some of these things from coming to a head?
So we always talk about what the next steps are and what to be prepared for and best case and worst case scenario. So is there something that I do that you're like thinking like, hey, Heidi, say this? Okay.
No.
I just wanted to make sure because we
First.
I feel like our clients are so savvy by the time that we get out there that they're like, oh, well, you warned us of this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So really the nonsense stories that I tell you are typically not with our clients. They're typically with somebody else's clients.
Very sweet.
But yeah, I mean, if somebody gets disrespectful, which I've
Had that happen too.
yeah, so I get quiet because I will jump off. And
Yeah.
I know that about me, and I will not do that professionally. So I normally get quiet, and then I remind myself, like, what is my motivation here, right?
Yeah.
And my motivation is to get these people to closing.
Yeah.
Because the best thing about our job, Molly, is that at closing, they go away.
They go, yeah.
Now, there's tons of clients that I'm like, no, text me daily. But
Yeah.
but the tough ones, there's an end date.
There's
And
an
I
end
love
date.
that.
Mhm. And you can decide if you keep them on your database or not.
Yep.
They either get a pie or they don't.
Yep. Either you get a gift or a thank you card.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. I was gonna say I always try, and I am not perfect at it. And you, a very, very wise woman, you gave me this advice, and that's eat the crust first. But
oh, yeah.
that's, make the phone call you don't want to make first thing in the morning, but not, kind of along that same line. The thing that I do or remind myself is if my client has to call me and ask where we are or like
Mm.
what's come of that,
Mm.
then I've kind of already lost. I mean, I try not to look at it as a loss, but like I've not handled it in a way that took their minds off of it, because I always want to try to take their minds off of it,
Yep.
unless the thinking assignment I've given them, like,
Yep.
hey, here's our where we are at the fork in the road, think on this and tell me your thoughts.
Yep.
If they're thinking on something and I didn't preemptively consider what it was and reach out to them, I feel like then I've not done as best as I can, and I understand
Sure.
that my standards for myself are like ridiculously high. But
As
so
they should be.
I always try as a goal, to actually, you said this, when I hop in my car and I start driving somewhere, I'm like, okay, who have I disappointed today, or who might I?
No, that's what I do before I go to bed at night.
Oh, okay, there you go. Well, I do
Who
it when I
am I
get in the
disappointed today?
car. Who did I massively fail? Who might I fail if I waste this hour in the car? And then I try to call that person, or text my assistant like, hey, can you please reach out to so and so and do
Yeah.
this real quick before they ask us? Because if they ask us, the moment to provide that level of customer service has passed. You
Yep.
can recoup from it,
Yep.
but every one of those moments makes you the utmost professional, and you
Yep.
the one who holds the cards. And so that's kind of, I don't really have a boundary otherwise. I know some agents are like, I do not answer phone after 9 o'clock at night and blah blah. I will. This is real estate and it happens at all
Yeah.
wacky hours.
Yeah.
But if I can call them at 6 p.m. with a, hey guys, I know we're waiting on this answer. I don't have an answer yet. I want you to go to sleep tonight knowing that an answer will most likely come tomorrow. They will go to sleep tonight and not panic.
Well, and hearing that in your voice. And if you can't call, send a voice memo. Like there's something so personal about hearing somebody's voice that will help reassure them.
Yeah, the no update is a great kind
Yeah.
of tool for that, I think. And I didn't learn that until much later. When I was early in the business, if I didn't have anything to say, I didn't say anything at all, because I didn't want to be that person who like spammed all the time, everybody's emails and phone calls and blah, blah, blah. But now, with the understanding and wisdom of a decade in the business, a no update is the utmost comfort you can offer a client.
Yep. Yep.
If you were thinking about it, they didn't have to.
Well, and if somebody does get disrespectful, I think it's very important to go back to what you were saying. Like, your motivation is to do this. So let's both think clearly about this. And we are at point, A was listing the house. B, now we have an offer. How do we get to C, which is closing? Like, let's slow down and think about that. And I think the whole, like, first of all, the tonality of your voice is so important. Being professional, being kind, outclassing them. We've got to talk about that another time.
Yeah.
That helps bring down those walls that people have that are just like, what's going on, and freaking out and all of that. And I think that's really lost with all the software, technology, whatever that we have now, is text, emails, but they don't get to hear the voice. And it's so important that will help them feel taken care of, but also get them to their goal.
Yeah, because the moment that your voice leaves the equation, it leaves space for their internal dialogue to take over, and the narratives that we as humans can create for ourselves about other people.
Wild.
They will ruin a transaction, and they're not even part of the transaction. It's just literally the story you've made for yourself about the other side. Like, these sellers, they must think that we are just made of money, and like, those sellers have not thought that. They are trying to figure out how to get like Nanny moved from her house over to, Auntie Joe's house, and then the stuff from her garage and our garage. And that's what they're thinking. But in our minds, when the agent's not there to guide with wisdom and class, that's the stuff that starts coming up. So anyway, I think compartmentalizing helps, and all these little tips are like, but shall we call them survival strategies?
I love this. Yeah. And we remind each other of that all the time. We're like, okay, Molly, now we're going to eat the crust first, and we're going to outclass them. Like, these are like the words that we say all the time to ourselves, but also
and to each other. I'll be like, listen, Actually, I just yesterday sent you a message. I'm like, did I do that right? And you're like, absolutely, you did it right. You outclassed him. You gave your word, you kept your word, and you moved forward. Never think of it again. We operate in a world of abundance. I'm like, yes, girl, this is what happens.
Praise be. Yes.
You
Yes.
say the things to me that I should say to me, but forget in the moment. And
Well,
that
great. I'm glad to hear that because you're normally doing that to me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm not the scum of the earth.
yeah, right on, sister.
Great. Great. All right. Well, we are right at 30 minutes.
Woo!
Yeah. I think we have some really good topics coming up. We've got a whole
Yeah.
list of topics. So you guys keep on tuning in. Send us your, Molly, did you make the email address yet? Sorry, I put you on the spot there.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing that. No.
Okay. We'll get it. We'll get it soon. In the meantime, if you have our numbers,
Writing it
text
on my
us.
to-do list with
Yeah.
my air pen. Okay.
Cool.
As soon
Yeah.
as I know.
We will figure it out. But thanks for listening to Between the Two of Us. I'm Heidi Harrison Raleigh.
And I'm Molly McGinty in Houston.
Till next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.